Hello there, and welcome back to the Indie Hour. My name is Ryan. If this is your first time watching this channel, watching this show, I should say, it's all about covering the latest and greatest in indie and alternative music. Before we do get started, though, I still want to talk about issues that are bigger than me, this show, and music, which is the unfair treatment of black people in this country. I hate to start off with this, but it's a sad and ugly reality in this country. But unfortunately, another life has been taken due to a police officer misusing his power. And I'm, of course, talking about Rayshard Brooks, who was senselessly gunned down on June 13th. And this is hard to talk about and hard to hear, but there's a quote that comes to mind when I think of talking about tough subjects, which comes from Brene Brown, who's a professor and an activist. She talks about how shame cannot survive a spoken word. That quote could mean, that quote and quotes in general could mean a million different things to a million different people. But what that means to me is it's easy to shy away from difficult and uncomfortable subjects. But by voicing it out loud, it just makes it all the more normal to talk about. And I brought it up in a previous episode, but in order to have change, we need to keep up the efforts of these protests and these outrage, because this should not be a one-time thing. This is hopefully the start of a revolution for change. Another thing I want to talk about that I think is important is education, specifically about Black struggles. That's been an important area for me, being white, to try to understand certain problems within the Black community. And personally this week, I've been trying to educate myself on a number of different issues that Black people face in this country. Again, like I said, as a white person, I will never face some of these problems, so education is important. That could include listening to something, watching something, hell, even reading something, to get a better understanding of Black struggles. And similar to what I said about keeping up the effort, I don't want this to be, my summer project of me giving a damn about Black problems. I want this to be a part of my life, and to have a better understanding of people in this world, in this country, so on and so forth. As I've done in the last two episodes, I've made sure to link something in the description that I found powerful. But before I do, I want to say that this is just what I have found important. I am certainly not an expert on any of these issues. I have a very bare knowledge of these areas. I would want to encourage you to go find your own sources and educate yourself on these kind of struggles. However, if, and however you see fit, if you do have a good source, I would love for you to link it into the comments. So going into what I've linked into the description this week, it's a Washingtonian article that gives free downloads to books talking about racism as courtesy of the DC Public Library. I personally plan on downloading and reading So You Want to Talk About Racism by Jamu Alu, and I think I pronounced that right. I probably didn't, but I wanted to talk about it on the show when I eventually finished the book. So transitioning a little bit into music and rather the playlist, something that I found really interesting this week, I stumbled upon, was a lot of Angela Davis's speeches and interviews are actually on Spotify. Angela Davis, for those who don't know, is, just a little blurb about her is not enough. She still is an incredible activist who has been fighting on issues related to race since 1970. And so that's how the playlist will be starting off this week. Continuing with what I've done in the past weeks, trying to highlight a Black artist from the indie scene. A little backstory for this week, and a suggestion came from my cousin Kristen, who suggested Leon Bridges. So great pick, Chris, and thank you for watching and supporting the show. So for this week's music, we got a super big release from Phoebe Bridges. She put out her album Punisher. It came out this Thursday, the 18th. I've been absolutely loving this album. She has such a unique singing voice that I've really loved too. I mean, I've been a big Phoebe Bridges fan throughout the years, but this album absolutely delivers on all fronts. It's a personal and powerful journey to go through this album. So, it's tough to pick, but probably my favorite song would be Halloween. It's really tough to pick. All I can say is I recommend checking out the whole album. And just one other song I want to talk about this week comes from a band that I was actually unfamiliar with until this week, which was Idols. Their music is a lot heavier, but that doesn't mean it's bad by any means. Idols makes some great music, and it feels like it definitely fits into the indie genre. So they came out with a song called Grounds this week, and what really caught my ear was, I don't know if eerie's the right word, but you hear this distorted guitar throughout the song. It's definitely my favorite part of the song, and it plays super well with the vocal styles, how the singer sings and stuff. It's got a real nice edge to it. And that's going to be the show for this week. So please check out the rest of the playlist and the source of the free books about racism in the description. I hope you got something out of this show. I will be hearing from you next week here on the Indie Hour.